Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, my first PRIO1 incident. Don't dox the customers. Terrible ideas require even more terrible solutions. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My first PRIO1 incident. Hi TFTSO/LTL, FTP, TCP/IP and so on. I am currently unemployed. Long story, but it's partly the fault of this job. My first real job in tech support, to be precise. I have a background in VoIP and was a general loan sysadmin shortly after. Some of the events are slightly altered for dramatic purpose and to keep anonymity. I hope you enjoy it anyway. Anyway, let me set the scene for you guys. This story happened around late 2015. I was in my first real tech support job and already disillusioned. You see, in my country there are basically two paths into the IT world. You can go to university and get a degree, or you take on an apprenticeship for 3 years. I finished the second on in mid-2015 with average grades, but also with a CCNA RNS, which opened me some doors for employment. I scored a second-level support gig with a company that does VoIP. Cisco Call Manager was my product, even though I never touched it before. This career path also meant that I went in pretty green. I wasn't even 20 when I started there and never took a call before. For some reason, high management thought it was a great idea to give the Mac, move ad change, tickets to the second-level guys. I only later learned that there never was a first level. Being the team's rookie, I added users and new phones to the system for 8 hours. This went on for several months, and you can imagine me scraping the bottom of the barrel that was our ticket K for some incident stuff. Anything to take my mind off the repetitive stuff. In comes $customer. There was a big team meeting that day, but because of stupidly short SLA times in some of our contracts, one guy had to stay in the office and just take the tickets to dodge the fines. Whoever sold $bank 10 minutes response time for any tickets shall be hit by cows falling from the sky. Of course, I took the short straw and prepared myself for hours of not getting sh*t done, and just mindlessly watching the K, checking the occasional box, and saving us from $x 0.000 fines. Suddenly, my phone rings. I recognize the number of our outsourced call center. $me, $support level _ company, Klinge speaking. Polish call center lady, I have a call from $customer. Ticket $NR. Can you take him please? I checked the K and the ticket indeed just got transferred to us. My eyes widen a little. I shiver as I feel cold sweat on my back. In red text there it was. PRIO1 incident. $me. Yeah. Sure. Forward the call please. Without another word there was a click. $me, hello $company _ support level, Klinge speaking. How can I help you? Customer, hi, this is Frank. I am the senior VoIP admin for big company. As we speak we have a big outage on some of our Jabber clients, basically Cisco's version of Skype FB. We first thought that the single sign-on feature was breaking, but it turns out these users can't log in at all. Which users encounter this seems absolutely random, and after a while some work again, just to fail an hour later. $me, hold on, let me log into the VM. Company had many customers and the preferred way of remote support was internal RDP. With every customer having their own environment and VPN solutions, we had a VM for every customer with the required VPN and additional software stuff as well as documentation. Actually kinda neat to have everything in one spot. The VM for $customer came with its own Jabber client, and sure enough, my attempt to log in failed. $me, I can reproduce the error on my end. No error message though. Give me some time to see though the logs. I might be able to find something. That was a blatant lie. Not only had I no idea how to pull logs out of Jabber, I also had no idea what could cause the issue and was nervous as hell. But you can let the customer know that, right? They sense fear. $Frank, awesome. Thank you. I will be in the office for another few hours, so feel free to call me. Click. I shrunk a good 10 centimeters in my chair and stared at the login screen that was looking down on me. It was sure it had won and just waited for me to give up, let this escalate, and get yelled at from my boss. There was no one in the office to help me. I was done for. Then it dawned on me. This is my first incident. My first PRIO1 at that. I can sit here and admit defeat, or get in there and throw all I got at this. It was fight or flight, and I would not go down without a fight. With new confidence, I took a sip of coffee and got to work. A quick Google-foo later, and I pulled the logs out of Jabber. I opened them and was met with over 3,000 lines. A huge wall of text and no idea what I was looking for. Fun times. My colleagues had already returned from the meeting while I still was looking though this, in hope of finding any hint. I read SIP call flow logs before. This can't be too hard, right? My mentor noticed the incident ticket with my name on it, and went over to see what I was doing. Mentor is a prettier word for rat in this context. His job was to tell our boss every screw-up on my part and kick my ass at every possible opportunity. I described the problem to him, and of course he took the ticket from my hands. At this point I felt confident that I would find something, but he didn't want me on this because of my rookie status. I heard him call $customer and told him it would take some time to fix. He didn't know what caused this either, and didn't want to use time on it today, because he was almost done for today. But I was committed now. I knew the answer to this was somewhere in these logs, and damn me if I wouldn't find it. I was already an hour over the clock when I found what I was looking for. At this point I was staring at these 3,000 lines for solid 3 hours, but there it was. The AD controller was refusing authentication with the Exchange server for the login process. This was it. I found it. I had found, what? Active Directory and Exchange? I remembered something about single sign-on, so it made sense that the authentication would fail if those two couldn't communicate correctly, but the error was random, so there was some communication. Also, if those two didn't work together, all of their Outlook would have failed too. If this was the case, they would be way too busy putting out that fire than to call us. I had my lead, but it wasn't making any sense to me. Still confused, I noticed that I was way over time and went home. The next day I had to spend some time on other tickets and wasn't able to return to my mystery incident until after lunch. While at lunch, I talked with one of my colleagues about the issue. He told me that he overheard somewhere that $customer were updating their AD controllers from 2008 to 2012 servers. He wasn't sure on the details though. Once returned, I called our project manager for $customer, and indeed they started the process of updating about a year ago. And they actually finished early this week. But he also told me that we did updates like this in the past and never had any problems with it. His advice was to simply escalate this to level 3 and stop thinking about it. I was not about to give up, it wasn't even my ticket anyway, so I thanked him and started digging again. There had to be some mismatch somewhere. I just needed to pin down what caused it. Unfortunately, I didn't have much to go on. I didn't have any access to their AD or Exchange. Not even a documentation. It would take another day until I would find my next lead. With not having anything to go on, I was back to doing Mac tickets. I had stockpiled a fair amount of them with 2 afternoons of digging on this incident. One of those was a Mac for $customer. I had to add 3 new users with phones to the call manager. Easy stuff. So I logged in on their VM and accessed the web interface. Something was odd. This wasn't the usual interface I knew. Sure, all the features were there, but it looked different. Somewhat older. And sure enough, after 2 clicks there it was. They were running version 9. The newest was 10. Something. 9 was pretty old by that time and not many customers still used it, so I was not used to seeing it often. Then it struck me. When was version 9 released? I Google FUD my way to the release and feature notes, and sure enough I found what I was looking for. The latest supported AD for version 9 was 2008. With their last AD controller updated to 2012, they broke the support of the software. The authentication of Jabber is tunneled though the call manager, so it made sense. To be sure, I called our Exchange guy and sure enough he confirmed it. Exchange 2012 in combination with this setup would never work, because some DB entry was just not compatible. I called the project manager for $customer and told him what I found after 3 days of digging. He admitted that they never considered this compatibility issue, since all other customers updating this already were on version 10. We conferenced $Frank and told him everything. A quick moment later, a sales rep was in the call as well, already pitching the update to version 10. I disconnected, since my work was done. Feeling good about myself, I went back to adding those users. I had fought and I had won. Don't dox the customers. So, some years back, I was doing support for networking devices. We weren't an ISP, we just sold and troubleshot networking devices, routers, switches, etc. I still had a decent working knowledge of how most of the big ISPs in the country operated, since a lot of my calls involved the internet going out, the customer panicking, looking at their internet box, their router, and calling the company whose name was on there. At which point we obviously had to troubleshoot the router and the internet connection, and it was usually, though not always, a problem with the internet connection. So our story begins with one of these calls, very standard. Hello, thank you for calling company, my name is Truly, how can I help you? Hi, my internet is out, I need it back up. Alright, have you already been in touch with your internet provider? That's you guys. I'm afraid it's not, but since you're here, we should still troubleshoot your dash. It's your name on the box. He was referring to a router. I am aware, but we do not provide internet services, we only sell the equipment. Well, who's my internet provider then? I'm not sure, sir, who do you pay your internet bill to? You guys? I am fairly certain that is not the case, sir. You're calling me a liar. No, sir, I'm just trying to tell you that we don't dash. What's your name? Truly. I want your full name. And your employee number. I'm afraid I don't feel comfortable giving out my full name, and we don't really have employee numbers. You have to give me your full name. I'm a customer. I'm sorry, sir, but I do not have to do so. However, I assure you that I am the only Truly in my department. Fine. I am going to write an article about this. I am a journalist in a big newspaper, you know. You're going to be fired before this is all said and done. Oh. I'll admit that I didn't have much of a response ready for that one. I wouldn't be surprised if your company ends up going under from this. We're a pretty important paper when it comes to consumer rights. I couldn't help myself. Which newspaper is it? Big mistake. Huge. Why are you trying to dox me? Yes, he actually said dox. No, sir, I just asked dash. You're trying to dox me. I can't believe this. Who the hell do you think you are? Sir, no, I just figured, if there's going to be an article abo dash. I demand a manager. I need to speak to someone up the chain. This is outrageous, you can't treat a customer like this. Give me your manager. At this point, my manager, who's been listening in on the last couple of minutes, nods for me to transfer. She pretty quickly finds out that it's an ISP problem, and told me that he had been quite pleasant to her throughout their conversation. I'll never forget that strange man. Terrible ideas require even more terrible solutions. Many moons ago in the mid-part of the 2000s, I, fresh out of high school, ended up with a team of intelligent misfits, all without any formal IT training either, in an IT department of a large retail store in the Deep South. The slightly crooked CEO was not tech-savvy, so his ideas, and what was actually feasible with technology and actual reality often had quite a gap between the two. As the IT department, it was our job to best match up the fevered dreams of a madman with a realistic best effort. A few previous gems from this man were to just download everything on the internet and having us create a mailing/advertising campaign that bordered on being pure spam. All this paled in comparison when he wanted to build a huge e-store. He had 30K physical items in store and access to another 20K for dropship. He didn't want to put forth the money for a legit operation to obtain pictures and write actual product descriptions. His idea was basically just steal from others. To be fair, it was more of a steal someone's stock manufacturer photos and their descriptions, and then have someone rewrite the description in their own words. A gray area all around, but we all needed the money. No one on the team knew how to code. None of us had ever heard of web scraping. Collectively, we were at a loss on how this task could be accomplished. Luckily, one of our more Adderall-laden individuals had an idea. After a quick brainstorming session, a plan was hatched. It was a sinful brute force abomination of a tech solution. If the universe is indeed a hologram, I fear we may have to answer for this sin after we die. The plan was we would scout out a similar site carrying the same items our store did and figure out where they would store their image and description data for an item on the web page. Then we would make sure it was uniform for a few test items. We would create a script with keystroke and mouse position recording software to pull a URL with item code in it from an Excel sheet, Alt-Tab to a browser window, paste the URL, wait for the page to load, save the image, copy the description to the Excel sheet and repeat until end of file. They then put this script on every available computer in the store. The team would stay after hours to set all the computers to run the script. The script would run all night and the data harvested in the morning. Many things were learned. Too many computers were used in the beginning and slowed the network down so much that it became more efficient to just run a bank of 10. Many large sites track the IP addresses making requests and will block your IP if it is exhibiting suspicious behavior. These blocks usually lasted 6 to 12 hours, since they can't rule out that someone is spoofing your IP address, and they might be blocking legit customers. Most importantly, a bank of 10 computers all hammering away at the same website with requests, all coming from a very limited, possibly a singular, number of public IP addresses looks a lot like suspicious activity bordering on a failed, too small, DOS attack on your site. The solution, clunky and slightly error-prone as it was, worked, and we would be blocked after a few hours of runtime, but would just resume the next evening when the IP ban expired. The pictures were reviewed to verify they were stock-looking, and the descriptions were edited. The website launched and worked fairly well. Sadly, the recession of 2008 ended the company and our sinful abomination was dismantled and forgotten. Knowing a rudimentary bit of Python now, I can only look back and laugh as I can accomplish the same things with a few dozen or less lines of code.